Hey guys! This video will cover vision cards and how important they make the difference when it comes to battle. There are many visions cards, and some are hard to come by. Some are limited or can have a low drop rate. There are few handfuls that should be easy to acquire. Some of these cards are just low rarity or they are available in the shops. One of these cards is super underrated and can be a lifesaver, especially when first starting off. It's an R rarity vision card called Leonis Castle. To this day, I still use this card, especially when it comes to limited PvP content. At first glance, it doesn't look like much. However, it's the bestowed stats that are important. Defense 15 and Spirit 15. This can easily make a unit much more survivable. Being that it's an R rarity, it should be easy to acquire and level this card. Another vision card that can be useful, especially when trying to clear PvE content, is the Vow of Love card. It gives an attack buff and slashing buff, but most importantly, it gives hate to the person equipped with it. To continue on with increasing slashing buff, we have another vision card that can easily be acquired in the shop. This one is called Secret Orders. This one grants the users an agility buff while also giving the party a slashing buff. Be sure to check what buffs are for the party and which ones are bestowed to the equipped unit. Some buffs are limited to element types, unit names and jobs types. It can be really easy to overlook some of the lower rank cards, so make sure you carefully read through them. Just like this card, for example. Great bestowed resistance but also decreased max HP. Some cards can have downsides to them. Perhaps one of the most important abilities to find on a vision card is agility. Here is a good example of one that should be easy to acquire. Just about any team formation is going to need more agility in some aspect. Another great ability to have for a formation is AoE resistance. This ability can help units survive in both PvE and PvP. Unit resistance and AoE resistance are currently the best defensive buffs to have for a team formation. There is another ability to look out for. However, this one mostly applies to raid content. That is the damage up ability. You can stack this ability if you have two cards that have damage up. Just simply have one card in the main VC slot and the other in the sub VC slot. When it comes to acquiring cards, I don't recommend you chase them. If you are pulling for units, occasionally you will end up with decent vision cards. Some cards like the Bahamut can be really difficult to acquire. It's a 90 cost card. However, it packs a lot of stats, but it's limited to light units. A lot of the best stat gain cards will be limited to an element type. There are a select few cards that also have the capability to have abilities attached to them. However, they have restrictions on who is able to use them. The condition button will tell you who or what job type can use the ability. One very good vision card to have that has an ability attached with some great stats is the Clairvoyant Astrologer. The attack and AP buff are great things to have in a physical formation, especially if you have a spear unit. A unit that has a main or sub-job that uses spear attacks should be able to use this VC. Be aware of this information. Having this VC at level 0 or any level that's not finished, so long as you equip it in the main slot, you can use the ability. However, if you put an incomplete VC in the sub-slot that has an ability, you will not be able to use the ability. It must be maxed out to use the ability in the sub-slot. But it can be level 0 in the main slot to use it. But now I want to show you a brief summary of what it looks like to properly stack VC buffs. I will also show a demonstration of what it takes to make a good formation for raids. But the first thing you will want to do is make sure you have units at least maxed limit break and awaken. Doing so will unlock the sub VC slot. Cards placed in the sub slot get you only partial stats from the VC. Right now what I am going to show you is how to properly stack some attack buffs. What I have done here is the example of what not to do. The higher value of the attack buff is kept while the lower value is basically nullified. Pressing the party ability button will also show this. It will also show which units are getting the buffs from the cards equipped. To get the proper buffs for the attack, simply add the lower value VC to a subslot. The red numbers represent the new diminished values. Going back to the party ability will now show that all three of these units should now have both attack buffs added. Now, here's a quick demonstration of what a raid party can look like. In guild raids, it's a 5-man team. Boss raids that have levels attached to them can reach level 100. Those level raids can have 4, 2, or solo unit teams. Multi-room raids can be done solo or up to 3 other players. There are a few types of vision cards to look out for. These are key to putting the most damage in. As you can see in my party abilities, I have attack up, /attack up, damage limit up, agility. These are some abilities to consider when looking into raids. There are other abilities that come into play, but that will vary depending on the raid itself. Also, notice that I have all of the same element type of units. These units are also all capable of using slashing attacks. So, any vision card that has the capability of buffing light attacks or slashing is a start to what cards you need. Depending on the raid, sometimes going for just attack vision cards is not ideal. If your unit is getting outpaced, then an agility card is what you will need. Or perhaps you are hitting max damage and want to clear the boss faster. Then, you are going to want a vision card that increases the maximum damage value. Sometimes you may end up with vision cards that don't match what element you want to use. So long as the buffs are not locked by job, name or element type, you can still use it. Just double check the details of the VC to make sure you are able to use the abilities. Most of the basic vision cards that are easy to acquire do have some purpose that can be used for various situations. Quick note on this VC, critical damage up and critical hit rate are different buffs. Critical hit rate increases the odds of landing a critical hit, while critical damage up will increase how much damage is dealt when landing a critical hit. In this formation, I do have a VC that's capable of damaging a boss even if it's not weak to slashing. This VC grants slashing resistance penetration. Cards like these are very useful to have, but they are also hard to come by, not to mention they are usually tied to an element type. Sometimes, all you need is to just give your units more AP. If a unit can just use more damaging abilities, then their overall damage output will be higher. Another ability to look out for are the element eaters and element damage up. This VC has both, so if I go up against a dark element boss, this will be the best card in slot for damage output for a light team. Now I want to talk a little bit about the units and how to pick ideal units for raids. For starters, you are going to want to pick units that have the capability of chaining their own attacks. Each unit you see here has at least a 3-hit move. The higher a chain you build while fighting a boss, the higher the damage chain multiplier will go. However, chains break when an enemy has a turn. They will also break if you hit with a different element or attack type. Other things to consider are abilities on units. For example, Locke can lower slashing resistance on an enemy. Lucio can lower light element resistance on an enemy. Another thing to consider is how much a unit can move. Sometimes, on a level, a unit's starting positions are far away from the boss. Usually, when figuring out a team's agility and formation on the map, I will want Lucio and Locke to be able to hit the boss first with their debuff. Ramza is an example of a unit that I want to move last, after everyone is in position and close to the boss because he has a large AoE buff for the party. These are the things to consider while configuring your team's agility and placement if you want the most optimal damage possible. Equipment also has a big impact when it comes to preparing for raids. In this formation, I currently have 3 TMRs that generate AP. Locke has his own ability that has AP regeneration. However, I do have him equipped with a jeweled ring +6 because it grants AP regeneration while landing critical hit attacks. One for Lucio as well because they both will use their limit break in a fight, and that cost a lot of AP to cast. If you are trying to solo a raid, it is much more difficult but not impossible. I have made several videos showing how this can be done. You really only need to do this for the multi-rooms raids or the raids that go to level 100. Essentially, you need to have the raid boss's element and attack type they are weak against. The unit needs a way to survive, either by evasion or healing themselves. That will just about sum up vision cards and how they are implemented into raids at least. If you have any questions, put them in the comments or join our Discord. Link will be in the description. Thanks for watching.